Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Hey there, and welcome back to Pure Golf Talk. I'm Taft Gantt, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Larkin Gross ahead of his third PGA Championship. Larkin, first off, congratulations on being here, and secondly, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, you are preparing for this PGA Championship being your third, but your preparation might be a little different than the Rory McIlroys and the Scotty Schefflers of the world because you have a full-time job to attend to back home, being the assistant golf pro at Westwood Country Club back home in Virginia. How do you balance that while also getting ready for one of the biggest golf tournaments of the year?
Yeah, it's finding time to practice around work. So obviously whatever my shift is, if I'm one to close, coming out a little bit early, getting some work in. I'm very lucky to have a staff around me that gives me the opportunity to play and practice and kind of work on my game, and a supportive membership as well. I can't forget to bring that up just because they've supported me since I started working there a little over a year ago, and it's nice to have people behind you that love to see you get better and love to see you succeed. But again, we're a very busy club, 485 active golf equivalents, and then a lot more members on top of that. So there are things that are required of me, just from an operation standpoint, coming and helping make sure the golf experience is great, taking care of members, helping run tournaments, things like that. So it's just finding time where I can fit some prep in around my shift. And again, the other guys are really good at making sure that I'm getting a chance to go out and play and practice. I play a lot with our director of instruction, Billy Hoffman, and then our other teaching professional, Brian Agee. And they're good players, so it's nice to be able to play with them, test where my game's at. And they're obviously very supportive of me playing well too. So.
And you're one of the 4 PGA pros who has qualified for a second straight year, having played at Valhalla last year. Have you changed the preparation in the lead up to this week, or has it been about the same?
No, I think I'm a little more comfortable this year. Every year you get to do it, you gain a little more insight, get a little more comfortable with what your process is. And so I think this year I feel a little more confident. We're changing the routine a little bit. We're not playing as much as we have in the past. It's kind of easy to be like a kid in a candy shop and come out and want to do all this crazy stuff, get new clubs, get all this different stuff that you get to experience that comes with playing the major championship. And so we're trying to pare it down a little bit and tone it down and just attack it more like we would a golf tournament that doesn't mean this much, which is hard to do, but I think it helps prep-wise to just make sure that we're pulling on our experiences from the past as opposed to coming at it as like a fresh-faced young kid and trying to act a little bit more like a veteran, which again is hard. This is my 4th PGA Tour start. I played in the Wells Fargo, and then my 3rd PGA. So I do have some experience, but it doesn't get any easier every year we get to do it. It's such a cool experience, and so I kind of almost have to step outside of my body and tell myself, hey, you earned your right to be here. Act like it a little bit more than just coming in and thinking about how cool it is.
You earned your right to be here as one of the top 20 finishers in the PGA Professional Championship a couple weeks ago at Port St. Lucie. How do the nerves compare in that event to the PGA Championship? And are you almost a little freed up now that you've done the work to get here and qualify for the big one?
Yeah, it's the PGA Professional Championship can be a little daunting. So you qualify through your section, which if you're in a big section is anywhere from 100 to 150 players, and then you get to the PGA Professional Championship, which is 312 of the best players in the nation, and they take 20. And the first cut at the PGA Professional Championship is down to 90 people. So they take less than 25% of the field makes the first cut, and then they cut it again after the 3rd round, which I actually got clipped by the second cut in 2023 in New Mexico. So it's definitely in the back of your mind, and it's one of those things you kind of can't think about because it is really tough, right? As a player and as a competitor, you know how hard it is, but you also have to go out and just try and play your own game. I think that's something I've done well the last 2 years, is really just stepping outside of what everybody else in the field is doing and trying to play my best golf. And I think that's been a really good formula for me. But it is a totally different kind of pressure. You know I can compete with those guys because I've had the past success in that tournament. I haven't quite had that success here, obviously, because it's a lot harder and it's a totally different stage. But it's actually funny. It's less pressure here because it almost feels like you're playing with house money. But it's still, it's harder here just because of how different the golf course plays and how different the level of competition is.
Yeah. And being able to draw on experiences like 2021 in Kiowa, 2024 Valhalla, are there any memories from those 2 years that stand out?
Yeah, so getting to play with the professionals in practice rounds is always so good because you get to see kind of how they handle themselves and how they go about their processes, which again, for someone who doesn't do this day in and day out, it's nice to see and get a little bit of insight from what they do because, they're the best at it, right? They're the best in the world at it. So my first year I got to play with Ricky in a practice round and Kevin Kisner and Brian Harmon, and getting to see how they went about their process is beneficial because, again, they do it so differently than I do it, and they do it differently from each other even. And so I got to glean a little bit from those guys, especially actually I played a practice round with Lonto Griffin at Kiowa, who's a Virginia boy from Blacksburg. And so getting to talk with him, and he was super gracious with his time and letting me know, like he gave me some tips about what to do, what not to do, and to make sure I didn't tire myself out. And that was huge because that's kind of something I've taken now in the last two, is to not overdo it and not get super tired by the time you come Thursday and feel like I'm gassed. Last year I got to play with Will Zalatoris twice, which was really cool because, again, watching him do his prep and how he goes about things, it's just invaluable to see what they do and then kind of take a little bits and pieces of what they do and put it into my own prep.
And how about this year? It's Wednesday. I was going to say a rainy Wednesday in Charlotte, but
yeah,
the sun just came out.
I know.
Everyone is going to have a big smile on their face, especially you.
Yeah.
What does your first couple of days of preparation look like, and what are you hoping to get in today?
Yeah, so we've been dodging the rain the first 2 days. We got lucky on the first day. I really thought the first day was going to be a total washout, and we actually got to play 9 holes, which was huge. It was super wet, but just being able to get out and see the golf course and some shots was obviously a huge plus for someone who's never seen the golf course before. Yesterday was a little bit better, still was wet, and we dodged a little bit of rain right before we went out yesterday, but it looks like today they were calling for most of the rain in the morning, and so now hopefully we'll get some sun to dry out the golf course. It's been ridiculously wet, but obviously the golf course drains fantastic, because they just redid it a couple years ago, put new drainage in. They got sub-air in the greens, so the greens actually are fairly firm, even though it's wet. It's very strange, the juxtaposition between the green surrounds and then the greens. Like, you can't really skip it up because the green surrounds are so sticky and wet, but then the greens are super firm. So it's going to be tough to kind of find where your landing area is with approach shots and short game shots, trying to make sure you're hitting your spots. It's very important playing to the front number a lot to kind of get the ball to take one big skip and then release. But I'm excited to hopefully see the golf course a little bit drier because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. What is your experience at Quail, and what have been your initial takeaways so far, having seen it the last few days?
Yeah, it's a big boy golf course. Obviously, the club pros, team of 20, are a little at a disadvantage just because this is a regular tour stop. So the guys, like I played with Ricky yesterday again, which was kind of cool to see that come full circle, and he's an awesome guy. But like watching him, who I think he's won at least once here. I think he's won twice here.
Yeah.
And watching him, he's like one ball, couple putts, and he's done because he like knows this place like the back of his hand. And so, for us, we're trying to see the golf course, most of us for the first time. And so you're trying to soak it all in, take in all the spots. Like yesterday, I played with Ricky, Jason Duffner, and Harry Hall, and I hit a hybrid shot on the 13th hole par 3, and I thought I hit a perfect shot, and it caught a slope and rolled way off the green. And Duffner's like, "Yeah, you didn't know that was there," like jokingly. And he's like, "Your wife over there knew it was there. You didn't ask her." So he was giving me crap about that.
Yeah.
But he also hit a shot on 12 where we were kind of hitting similar shots, and mine caught a slope that I didn't really see was there and fed away from the pin, and he hit his to like 5 feet. And I was like, "Oh, that's how you do it." And he goes, "Yeah, I've probably played like 80 rounds here. It's a little bit of an advantage for me over you." But we're going to go around the back nine again today, especially with the green miles 16, 17, 18, and just kind of see that a little bit more. The front nine feels a little more in front of you. Obviously, there's still some tough holes there, but when we went around the front nine the first day, it just felt like it was more easier to see lines on that nine than it was the back nine. The back nine, there's just some spots where you've really got to pay attention to some overhanging trees, some spots where it's just better to come in to the green from there. Like 11 and 12 come to mind. 11, you really have to come in from the right side of the fairway for a better angle into that green, especially when the pin's left. And on 12, you cannot favor the left side. Like yesterday, I kind of favored the left side too much, and I got in the rough and I had to hit like a punch draw underneath the trees. So it's just kind of finding the little things there and then getting your lines. Like, it's so important. It's going to be so important to play out of the fairway this week, especially with it being wet. If you get in the rough with how sticky and wet the rough is, it's just going to be tough to extricate yourself from there. I mean, it's just like it is every year, just like it was last year at Valhalla, but it's going to be, I think, a little more of a premium, especially with, Valhalla last year, the greens were bent and the greens weren't as new. This year, the greens are fairly new. I think they're 2 years old, and so they're still a little firm. Bermuda, you get that first big bounce. So it's going to be important to come from the fairway where you can get some spin on it. But the golf course is fantastic. I mean, I was surprised how good it fits my eye, which is nice feeling, because at Kiowa I felt like the course fit my eye so well, but it was playing like impossible. It was like hitting into this concrete right here. And then last year Valhalla just didn't quite. I struggled with lines off the tees at Valhalla, especially on the back nine there. Like, I just couldn't find the right shot shapes to envision. And it feels like here, playing the first 18, or playing 18 for the first time, I felt like I could see the shot shapes a little bit better, see the lines. So it's nice to feel that, to have that feeling going in.
Yeah, well, hey, third time's the charm.
I know.
That's the saying. Your parents are here with us now. Your dad Butch caddied for you at your first ever PGA Championship at Kiowa. And then your wife, Paige, was on the bag last year at Valhalla. Who's it going to be this year?
So I've got Paige on the bag this year. She's, I always say whenever people ask me, between her and my dad, like there's no two people who know my game better. So if I can have one of those two on the bag, I'm doing pretty well. She was on the bag for me at the PGA Professional Championship this year. And, we work well in tandem together. We play in a lot of section events together as a team, and we have a lot of success. So there's just something about that dynamic that works for us. I caddy a lot for her in her national tournaments, the LPGA Teaching and Coaching Tournament, and then the Virginia Women's State Open. I'll caddy for her sometimes too. So there's just a connection there. Oh, I mean, obviously we're married, but there's a connection there from a golf standpoint that really works for us. So it's invaluable to have somebody on your bag that knows you and knows your game well, because they know your ticks, they know your cues. People have always talked about, like when I played Kiowa, people were like, "Oh, well, why don't you get a local caddy from Kiowa?" And I was like, no. It's like, I want somebody who knows my game well and knows what makes me tick and what makes me make certain decisions. And without that, meeting a caddy for the first time on Monday, it would be hard for them to really figure out what my golf game is, like what character my golf game takes on. Everybody's game has a certain sort of character to them, right? Like, as a teaching professional, that's what we're trying to find out about people. And so with Paige and my dad, seeing me play so much golf, seeing how I make decisions, seeing how I go through and attack problems, they know what my character is on the golf course. And it would not that having somebody with local knowledge wouldn't help, but I just think that for me, it's more of making decisions is going to give me the best possible outcome as opposed to knowing a green read or something like that. You know, now, for instance, if we were going to a place like, just off the top of my head, like Southern Hills a couple years ago, like with how much local knowledge is in those greens because of the valleys that are there, like the big valley that runs through that property, sure, that may, you know, a local caddy may have been a little more of an advantage, but, you know, here at Quail Hollow, Paige and I were talking, there's a lot, you can see the breaks a little bit easier out here. So it's definitely more of an advantage to have someone who knows me and knows how I play than a local caddy, I would say. Not that the local caddies aren't great, they are great, but just for me personally.
And how cool it is to share that bond with your wife Paige as both being PGA golf professionals. And you met at Methodist, where you played 4 years of college golf and national championship in 2018.
Yep. Yeah. And so she was actually able to win one in 2021.
Oh, wow.
So funny story, when we were heading to Kiowa, I actually picked her up off the bus when they were returning from Michigan, and she hopped in the car with me and we drove straight to Kiowa.
Yeah.
So they were just coming off of that national championship win, which was really cool. And yeah, I mean, my coach actually, it's a funny story, at Methodist University, Steve Conley, he like match made for us. Like he did, it was like matchmaker for us. It's weird. And without him, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that without him we would have never gotten together, but it probably would have taken a little bit longer. So it's funny that he was kind of playing the Cupid role in that scenario. But yeah, I was very lucky to go to Methodist, and I always say I knew how to swing the golf club before I got to Methodist. I didn't know how to play the game though in a competitive standpoint. And so Coach taught me a lot about how to play the game and how to manage my way around the golf course. And that's obviously a big advantage for me because, you know, like I said, I was definitely more of a hit it and find it kind of kid growing up. And I learned how to manage and plot my way around a course more as I played 4 years at Methodist, which was, you know, a boon for me. It ended up, you know, making me a better player as I moved throughout my years, learning just how to, when I didn't have it, where to aim, how to play a little bit more conservatively when I was maybe searching a little bit more, and then knowing when to be aggressive and attack when I felt like I could.
This is my last question for you, and then I'll let you go have your final practice round at Quail Hollow. What does it mean to represent your family, your club back home, your University of Methodist on one of the biggest stages of golf here at the PGA Championship?
Yeah, it's a question we get a lot, right, when we get to do this as PGA of America professionals. You know, we're representing I think it's like 27,000 now. I think 28,000 PGA of America professionals. I don't think that's including the associates who are trying to get into the business. So, you know, we definitely are representing a lot more than just ourselves, and it's not lost upon us how many people are, I wouldn't say looking up to us, but looking to us to represent our association, represent our clubs, represent, you know, our families. And it's just trying to be yourself and play as best you can. You know, it's really cool, this opportunity we get to have. And for a PGA of America professional, guys like Blocky, who was my partner at the PGA Cup a couple years ago and who's a fantastic guy, and Braden Shattuck and Jeremy Wells and Ben Cook a couple years ago, who have had the chance to actually make the cut. And it's so cool seeing them do it because it validates us being here, right? You know, if we were just 20 guys who got to play every year and never made the cut and just came out and shot 85 and went home, like, it wouldn't look great on us. But having those guys like Blocky, like Braden, like Ben, who have had a lot, and again, you know, like Ben Polland, who has made, I think, like 3 out of 4 cuts on the PGA Tour from his winning exemptions that he got from the PNC last year. Like, those guys are, you know, I definitely look up to them as something that I would like to do moving forward. You know, making the cut, being a low PGA Club pro is obviously something that I aspire to do in the future.
Well, I want to wish you the best of luck on that, and to enjoy this week with your family and everyone that will be here. Larkin, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.